Cape Maine, Autoblog has officially determined the adaptation of the Genesis G70 that will be sold on the automaker's home promontory, and observed it to be a convincing contrasting option to any semblance of the BMW 3 Series, Audi A4, and Mercedes-Benz C-Class. I got my first break at the auto in its North American generation shape this month in the southeastern slopes of Maine. That implies this form has been tuned for a nation with less speed bumps and more lover drivers, and gives a chance to dive somewhat more profound into what the G70 implies for the brand at home and abroad. For the US we get a couple of power plant alternatives in the G70, both utilizing turbocharging and direct infusion. The spending choice is a 2.0-liter inline-4 useful for 252 drive and 260 pound-feet of torque when combined to the 8-speed program. The back-drive i4 is likewise accessible with a 6-speed manual transmission, and prepared in that capacity, it offers a couple of additional pull for an aggregate of 255. The execution alternative is a twin-turbocharged 3.3-liter V6, combined exclusively to an 8-speed auto, giving 365 drive and 376 pound-feet of torque, the last offered from Low in the Rev Extend. It can impel the auto from 0-60 miles for every hour in a quick 4.5 seconds when utilizing dispatch control. I invested the vast majority of my energy in race-wheel drive adaptations, yet the all-wheel drive auto can likewise move up to 100% of its capacity to the back wheels under the correct conditions when set in sport mode with soundness control off. Out and about, this thing is a shark. Comment by P, ready to voyage serenely, prepared to blast without hesitation with a touch of the drive mode handle. I was extremely awed with the quiet, calm ride it gave. So, in case you're searching for a roaring sports auto that'll growl and pop its way not far off, the G70 isn't the auto for you. It's an almost quiet professional killer, exchanging oral satisfaction for a feeling of sheer smoothness. Lately in years, I had almost abandoned oar shifters. I simply don't observe them to be especially captivating, so I was fairly satisfied to hear that Genesis would offer a 6-speed manual in the G70, if just as a token signal in the 2.0T. On a long downhill review in the 3.3T, however, I utilized the oars for motor braking, and afterward I couldn't stop. These shifters are a bona fide joy to utilize, offering a snappy dopamine hit with such a brisk reaction to a flick of a finger behind the guiding wheel. The G70 offers an uncommon setup in which the oars really do give a true blue sentiment of association with the auto. As pleasant as it is to drive, however, the G70 is similarly as brilliant to view. Hyundai and Genesis configuration supervisor Luke Donkerwalk's vision of an adjustive structure and boldness is executed perfectly. The plan is exquisite all around, and everything that catches the eye of your eye or fingertip is out and out high caliber. The look is extremely think, it's all crisp and even somewhat heroic, yet there's no blaze for street. Actually, there's a feeling of effortlessness when you see the inside or outside from a far distance. Under examination, however, you can't help see the huge scrupulousness, from the copper-shaded components and the lighting to the manner in which the sewing maintains a strategic distance from the puncturing of the calfskin to the smooth liveliness of the entryway slightly open illustrations on the instrument board as you close the entryway. The drive took me to Club Motorsports, another, private track office incorporated with the side of a mountain in New Hampshire. It's a major, swoopy track with gigantic rise changes. There I could suss out the auto's qualities, and its points of confinement. On the huge, 2.5-mile, 15-turn street course, with 250 feet of height change, I bounced into a back-drive 3.3T for a bunch of lead take after laps. With footing control dialed back, yet not totally impaired, the G70 carried on typically and forgivingly. Pushing it through a long corner, giving it more throttle kicked the back out and point the nose in. The Michelin Pilot Sport 4 Elastic made a great deal of commotion practically the whole time, however did well to impart and dole out hold and turn fittingly. I realized rapidly that with the G70, it pays to be reasonable with the throttle. It's anything but difficult to burrow excessively profoundly, actually, it's hard not to. On the off chance that smoothness is the way to reliably quick laps, you need to learn not to pound on this thing on your way past the peak, or hazard strain from your line. When I at long last figured out how to be legitimately light on the throttle on lead, I found the auto to stream pleasantly around this swoopy track. In the AWD adaptation, on a similar circuit, I found the G70 3.3T ready to pull itself around the corners without hardly lifting a finger, yet it was less lenient, inclining toward understeer when cooking a corner excessively hot, not surprising, but rather an outstanding contrast from the auto I had quite recently been in. More regularly than in the RWD adaptation, I needed to shed speed to bring it back in line. One thing that continued amazing us was exactly how calm this auto is. Remaining alongside the long directly toward the complete line of the track, an area where the auto is passing 100 miles per every hour under full throttle, I'd watch these autos swoop by over and over, and I never heard them coming. There was just a negligible shoot as each G70 cut its way through the environment feed from where I stood. It's relatively uncanny, as I'm told these G70s are significantly noisier than the rendition offered in Korea. From inside, the moaning of the tires tearing for hold overwhelmed the soundtrack. This is an indisputably athletic auto, and is easily fast and smooth out and about. On the track, the G70 is fast, yet moves you to think hard to take in its practice as previously you can really be predictable. It's not one of those autos that you can ace in multi-day, which maybe makes it significantly all the more convincing to claim, so you can invest energy opening the key to its qualities. So is this the correct auto for Genesis at the present time? Something appears to be odd about the emphasis on cars when purchasers are so fixated on SUVs. I heard 3 reasons that sounded good to me. Most convincing, and most self-evident, is the possibility that while setting up another auto mark, particularly an extravagance mark, the character begins with vehicles. Particularly when part of that picture is execution, you don't plan your banner with a lineup of hybrids. On the off chance the Utes had started things out, I'd experienced issues becoming tied up with the charm of the Ascent idea, which is something the showcasing and outline fat cats inside Genesis truly need to catch up on. Second, for another brand that is as yet attempting to develop in volume, it bodes well to begin little and increase into higher volume vehicles once the dealership system and brand personality has hardened. This stage is an adaptation of the one utilized by the Kia Stinger, and will in the end be the reason for a SUV. There's one other reason, however, that vehicles are so essential to Genesis straight out the entryway, Korea. All through my opportunity in Maine and New Hampshire, I was reminded over and again about how devoted the organization to its home market, and its home culture. In the extravagance world, cars are as yet lord in Korea. Also, Korean brands make up a lion's share of autos out and about there, as I realized when I ran with Hyundai there to drive the Nexo and Santa Fe. What I likewise observed when I went to Korea is that there isn't generally a gigantic auto culture set up. Indeed, even Manfred Fitzgerald, Genesis official VP and worldwide brand boss, concedes this. Desire, however, is all-inclusive, and Genesis can offer it on the level of the Germans, likely for a couple of $1,000s less, as well. Estimating for the G70 is still to be resolved. In the event that Genesis can transform the Korean soul of its vehicles into a less venturesome other option to German richness, it may be onto something. It will require investment, however. It will take advertising to get imposes upon seats. From that point, the G70, in any event, will offer itself. The level of value on offer smacks you in the face, at that point pulls you in close and holds you there, all the while sending a notice shot over the bow of its German rivals. It's on Genesis and its merchant range, which is simply starting to solidify as the organization bargains with Hyundai merchants over how Genesis dealerships ought to be run, and by whom, to prevail upon all the more new changes over. In the wake of investing quality energy in the driver's seat, I'm completely persuaded the G70 has what it takes as far as quality, outline, execution and solace to confront its opposition. What necessitates to happen currently is for the auto to get bolster from the brand cachet Genesis is attempting to construct. It's a long play, yet the G70 is a sparkling case of what the organization can do. On the off chance that Genesis can get their famous foot in the entryway with clients, autos like the G70 can represent themselves, as tranquil as its voice might be. Regardless of drastic conditions, a youthful brand with an unsteady dealership circumstance propelling this car before building up itself with higher volume merchants like SUVs, will scheme to see this auto disregarded by US purchasers. That would be a crying disgrace.